Hello, I'm Otto, and welcome to episode 44 of my Factorio Post Novice Guide. So in the last episode, we kind of created some carbon fiber. We didn't really completely turn this on, which is a good thing because, man, I had set all of these up for Yamako mash and completely forgot about the Bioflux needing some jelly, so we did have to kind of add one of these in. Not a big deal. I also put some modules in. We still need to get some spoilage in, and we will do that shortly. But I wanted to kind of go over some things. So I was able to stress test a lot of this. Most of this is fine. I did kind of determine, however, that we're going to need some extra storage for nutrients and for the nutrients to turn into spoilage. So I'm going to shift this, allow the water to continue to come through. I could move it over here, but I think I might do some funny stuff with some of this. And yes, I still need some heat pipes, which should be on their way. I think we're stuck. Yeah, we have some heat pipes coming in from Volgora, and we're up next. So in a couple minutes, we'll have some of those heat pipes. Anyways, yeah, so like I said, I was able to do some stress testing and everything seems fine. I need to stop that and go back into, where is that? And I guess for now, we can just go back to bot speed. Okay. So I also determined a couple things during my stress test. One, it's great that we're producing all of these nutrients, but two, oh, and I also added this, just kind of a little backup, like a fail safe. So I have the chest itself reading the belt, holding all for just the nutrient belt and enabling if it's less than 100. So this is just kind of a backup plan. I did the same thing over here, but I also kind of want to expand on that because it's great to have the ability to deal with all of the stuff that we're bringing in. It's completely different when we don't have anything being created. Stuff still needs to move, stuff still needs to be backed up. So I'm going to connect this to this Bioflux, Biochamber, and we're going to tell him to enable if nutrients are less than 1,000. So in the case where something needs nutrients, so this one actually needs the nutrients other than for fuel, if it actually needs the nutrients, then we're going to set it to 1,000. If it doesn't need the nutrients, so in the case over here, it only needs the nutrients for fuel, it doesn't need it for anything else. We're going to set this to enable if nutrients are less than 500. So now we have kind of a fail-safe if for some reason things aren't working out, and we also have a little bit of a backup plan if things aren't moving at all, in which case, you know, as of right now, we're not moving at all. Oh, I also, I completely forgot to filter these for carbon fiber, so some of the spoilage was coming out on this line. Not a big deal. We will take care of that once we get to the point where we actually need carbon fiber. We will kind of sift off some of this spoilage. Anyways, so one of the things that I want to change is I actually want to add to the heating towers for both the nutrients and the, I guess, kind of like burn off power. And you'll see too that like we're not using a lot of power, which is great. And the reason we're not using a lot of power is largely because the biochambers all run on nutrients. Like that is their power source. So that means that every time we add in, for instance, modules, it's just going to be consuming more nutrients rather than actually using power. Which means that any power that the excess that we have that we're burning off, any power that we get from this is just going to help us out. So, I don't actually think I'm going to move this one. we can come back to this one at a later date. But I definitely want to add to this one. So I'm going to copy all of this and paste that in. We're going to have that come in here. And then I need to connect these with a heat pipe, which, as I said, we do not have in yet. So for now, I'm not going to attach these to any boilers. I kind of think maybe at some point I might, and I'm going to maybe have this, I might change the end of this at some point to have some of these have boilers and some of these have boilers. Because at the end of the day, the heating tower acts kind of like the nuclear power, the nuclear reactor. So if you look at the bottom right hand corner, you can see that it consumes X number of burnable fuel, blah, blah. But the output is 40 megawatts. So that's the same as a nuclear reactor. The difference is that there's no neighborhood bonus. So this is 40 megawatts. Each one of these towers, as long as it's over 500 degrees, is going to be able to help put out 40 megawatts worth of power. And 40 megawatts worth of power is 4 heat exchangers. They consume 10 megawatts, and then the heat exchangers, let's just say they need two steam turbines. It's a little bit less because this one puts out 103 steam per second, and each of these needs 60 steam per second. So technically it's not a 1 to 2, but we're going to treat it like it is. Mostly just because I don't really care to get it 100%. Like in the case of when we were building the nuclear power back on Novice, we kind of wanted to be a little bit more picky, I guess. On Gleba, I'm not picky at all. Like, there's going to be situations where these are firing on all cylinders, and there's going to be situations where they're just, you know, they're not doing anything because they don't have enough heat or whatever. So I'm going to leave this like this for now, but we will probably, like I said, end up redoing this. And to kind of add to this, I think some of these, I might not do it right now, but I think we will need to add another 1 or 2 of these on the lines coming out to consume the materials. And it might seem like overkill, but at the end of the day, it's better to have too much on Gleba. It's better to have too much than not enough. Before we get this going, I also kind of set up these little stopping mechanisms to kind of read the belt contents and say, hey, you're not allowed to go through until a certain amount has backed up. I know I did so much off screen. I also beefed these up quite a bit. We're getting to the point where it's pretty close to the point where we have enough seeds that we can stop this whole like self-contained system. Once we get to the point where we unlock the overgrowth, I'm going to end up redoing all of the farming and have it a little bit more streamlined. It will still have, let's say, a roboport, but it will not have the assemblers. It will not have its own power source. It won't need it because we're using such a small amount of power at the moment, because we're largely dealing with biochambers. Once we get past biochambers, we will obviously start to pick this up a little bit. Anyways, 9 minutes in this episode, we're going to be making some rocket fuels. So this one's going to be a little fun. So I'm going to copy all of this. Sure. And this is going to be quite a bit different than the rocket fuel that we've made in the past. Largely because the rocket fuel that we're going to be making is, well, it's a little different. So let's take a look. So rocket fuel from jelly. So we need Bioflux, and we need jelly, and we need water. That sounds really simple, but when you look at the material or the ingredient requirements, we need 6 jelly per machine. And that is going to be a little bit of a problem because each one of these jelly produces 12 per second base. So this is enough to power 6 of these. And I want to make significantly more than 6 of these. So there's a couple things that we're going to do. One is I'm going to remove the Omako mash filter. And I'm going to change this one to be jelly nut. So he's going to be putting jelly nut out on the same line that the Yamako mash is coming out on. We only need 4 of these, well, more or less. We're okay. Let's just put it this way. Actually, I could probably, you know what? I know the last time I tested something, I forgot to put a jelly nut in for something that needed Bioflux. We're going to try doing more of these because these will get priority on the belt. So these will just kind of put out extra. And we're going to need a lot of jelly nut. And at the end of the day, like the amount that these can put out, like this is 12 per second, right? So 5 of these, this is a full green belt worth of stuff. So that's not going to leave enough room for these, or kind of really, these are not going to leave enough room for these until we get the stack inserter. So the stack inserter will allow the same item to stack on top of each other multiple times. And that's kind of what we're working on getting now. And we're going to need that very soon because we're going to need that for not just this jelly, but also some of our nutrient providers. Just to kind of, it also helps clear up room on the belt. So you can see, like, for instance, over here, this guy's putting out his 100 per, or his 100, or here. Like, these nutrients are completely clogged, but if all of these were stack inserters, it would look visually like there's way more room on this belt, because these guys are putting out 12 items every time they swing. The stack inserter puts out 16, but it puts it out in 4 stacks of 4 once you get to the highest transport. So we've already unlocked 2 of those. So the initial tech allows it to stack twice, and then we've already unlocked a 3rd item on the stack, and the last one here is unlocking the 4th item on the stack. And yeah, that's loads of fun. Okay, we need to hurry up and get into this. So I'm gonna actually make 16 of these as I put 7 of these down, and we're gonna have some fun belt stuff in the middle, but I'm gonna have water coming in here. Oh, I'm actually just going to remove this and allow that to go through. And whenever I make the blueprint for this, hopefully I'm going to remember, but I'm not going to have it the way that I'm doing it here. I'm going to have it set up something like this, because we will need water to continue on. However, I'm on landfill here, so I'm going to use the opportunity to just toss in an offshore pump, which will look like that. And now I have yay water. Okay, so we needed Bioflux, we needed jelly, we needed water. That much we have covered. We also need nutrients, and we need an out for our spoilage. So for the Bioflux, I'm actually just going to take it right off this line. This is the Bioflux line. This Bioflux will then kind of continue on and, let's say, go under something. Of course, I'm in the wrong direction. Go under and go somewhere up here to continue on. I'm just guessing right now that's temporary. This is our jelly and Yamako mash. So the jelly is going to come, and it's going to be the first one that we have in the middle. The nutrients will come up here somewhere. Let's say past the jelly line, and then the jelly will be allowed to continue up. Sure. The nutrients can then come over here, which means that this is going to be our output belt. And then we will bring it down onto our little bus. We probably don't even need a bus out of it. Like I would probably, it might even be better just to kind of collect it here. I know it's dark. Might even be better just to like collect it here, because we're mostly going to be using bots to kind of deal with our rocket fuel anyways. We're going to be using them to, so for instance, if we just had nothing coming through here ever, if we're relying on this to be our like absolute power, I want to have something like this set up in a way that the rocket fuel can come in if we don't have anything else coming through. So that is pretty easy, just tracking the temperature. Okay, so this is our Bioflux. Obviously, we're gonna have to get power in here too. So let's just say that we stamp that here, and let's back this up one. Let's back this up two, and stamp that here. Is that going to be good enough? Doesn't quite line up, but I think I'm okay with that. I just need it to be here. Okay, so if this is our nutrients line, why are we bringing in... Wait a minute. No. Abort. I do not want yet. Oh, whatever. It's fine. We're going to burn it all off anyways. Okay, so I need jelly coming in, which does not need to be filtered. So if this is our output line, I'm probably just going to have a longhand inserter output here. However, we want the output to be filtered 100%. And then we need to bring in some nutrients. I think we're probably just going to do that here. So I'm going to force stamp this in right above the rocket fuel. We're going to do some funny stuff with the underground belts because we do not need this one, or this one. Those can just skip over. Sure. And I will need to do the same thing here because the spoilage will be going here. Back onto the nutrients belt, which is currently spoilage. Nice. Okay, so that's 3 belts. I'm going to copy all this. I'm not going to copy everything because we're going to have to like redo all this on the other side just with different belts. So for instance, if we... This is our input for... No, this is our output. Oh, I need to squeeze these in here. Make sure our longhand inserters all line up still. They do. Okay, so this is the incoming jelly. And then we need outputs, which we can put in the same spot. We need incoming for nutrients. And outgoing for spoilage. As far as water goes, I think I'm just going to do the same thing up here. And the last thing that we need is Bioflux. So the Bioflux is actually going to be the biggest problem that we're going to have because Bioflux takes 2 hours to spoil and it's not burnable, so it has to be consumed at some point. Actually, as a matter of fact, I kind of thought about that over here. So this is going to spoil eventually, maybe a little bit faster than we're going to end up using it. And I don't really have an exit strategy for potential spoilage. So I'm going to cut this and move it up just a little bit. And then have this belt curl up. And that way I can filter this guy for spoilage and put that back out on the nutrient belt if necessary. And that's actually really close to me being like content with this build. Yeah, we're almost done with that build, and I haven't made a blueprint for it yet because I'm not I've been a little iffy about actually doing actually getting things perfect on Gleba. And actually we probably don't even need these, to be honest. That is probably fine because we're not going to be creating, the science packs aren't going to be creating fast enough to fill one of those anyways, so that is going to be sufficient for now. Anyways, back to what we were doing over here. Okay, so we need an exit strategy for the nutrients, and we're just going to, for now, copy all of this. And like I said, I'm probably going to have to make some changes, but it is what it is. I actually need some power up here too, so I'm just going to grab substation and go right up with it. And then we can paste this right on top. And I think that is how I'm doing this. Okay, like why is that gonna, oh, whatever. I'm over it. Okay, so we have water coming in here. We need these guys to collect. That is on the wrong side. I know all that, and it's on the wrong side. That is so wild. Anyways. It is what it is. So another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually increase this to 2,000 capacity for the nutrients. And that goes for all of these. And I'm going to reduce this one from 1,000 to 500. No, not 5,000. Just because of how much extra spoilage we are going to have and being collected in here, we do not need, like, even 500 is a little overkill. But it also gives us more room to bring in more nutrients and enough time for them to spoil inside the chest. Okay, I think we need to turn this guy on. So I'm going to give these guys like 600 spoilage. Right, one last little double check. I think we're probably going to end up increasing these. Like, we're going to probably need more. And also with this build, the first thing that we're going to do once we get stack inserters is give these the jelly nut, or sorry, the jelly, not the jelly nut. We'll give the jelly guys stack inserters so that they can, you know, have more coming out. Why is this not going? Because we did not connect it? Okay, so that is just about, we're almost to the point where I can just kind of open up the floodgates on these guys. So like I said, up until this point, these guys have been really self-contained. At some point, I'll be expanding the city block network up this way so that we can connect these networks together, connect the power together. Now that we're getting more power out of these down here, quite a bit more power out of these down here, I can then just break this down and have outgoing sections onto belts and bots bringing in seeds for the incoming, and all the rest of this can go, which will open up more plots. I don't think I've mentioned it, but in general, one of these plots, it takes about 5 minutes for these to grow, and so 5 minutes to grow, and it creates 50 of the fruit. It's not quite like a perfect ratio, but I think, and I know that the math isn't going to sound right, but one of these will produce roughly 1.666 per second, which means that 6 plots will create roughly 1 per second. We are way under that in this case because we're consuming a lot via the assemblers. So in some situations, if you don't have enough plots like this setup here is really kind of a waste of time. Like, these guys are just like, this guy is basically doing nothing. So I took the inserters, or I took the belts away for this one, and he's just kind of a connector, like a temporary, actually both of these, they're pretty much temporary at this point. Same with this one's connected, this one's connected, oh, this one is not connected. So there you go. I only had 2 plots that I was like, okay, that's worth it. Had them coming up and bringing the materials down, but I'm just about ready to open the floodgates. I will probably make that transition to having these guys just full out go onto the belts before we get to the point where we have the overgrowth soil, which will allow us to utilize more of this section, and like, rather than just this ugly forest green color, we will be able to use a lot more of this area. Anyways, that is our rocket fuel build. Excuse me. Who is not... Oh, I forgot to filter these guys again. Which one is outputting to the... That? Yes, you are the output. Okay. I think that's going to do it for now. We might... I know that these guys are... I know these are going to be producing 60 per second, but once we get stack inserters, I might even beef this up, because the amount that they're putting out now is nowhere near the amount that these need. For us to actually fully saturate this now, we would need speed modules in these, and we would need productivity modules in these to slow them down. We would only be able to produce enough jelly to maybe these and some of these with this. But you know what? It's better to prepare for the future. Have it, like I said, it's better to have too much than not enough. We have a lot of wiggle room whenever it comes to adding in more rocket fuel, and we can consume as much rocket fuel as we want at some point with some of these heating towers. Like I said, it's going to look... Let's just go ahead and set something up real quick. So it's going to look something like this. You're going to request rocket fuel, which I'm not going to do right now. And we'll just say, like, I don't know, 10 rocket fuel, 20 rocket fuel. Within the heating tower, we're going to set a rocket fuel section so that the rocket fuel won't end up in the front because it prefers to burn from this slot rather than this slot. So the rocket fuel will be in the back so that if more stuff comes in, it'll burn that off first before it gets to the rocket fuel. And we will have a situation where we are reading T and not the inserter, the chest. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. We can do the chest or the inserter, but yeah, you know what? We'll do the inserter. Enable if T is less than, I don't know, 550, something similar that we would do with like the nuclear reactors. So that's giving it a designated slot. And I almost wish that I had done it this way because then I could limit the amount. Okay, I'm not worried about it. That's plenty. Anyways, that's what it's going to look like. Okay, that is going to be it for me for now. In the next episode, so we need to start working towards getting circuits on this planet. So I think we might look at possibly trying to see if we can work towards blue circuits. That is quite the task on Gleba. We need we need iron plates and copper plates into copper cables. We need plastic. We need sulfur to get the sulfuric acid. It's quite a hurdle. We have a couple of things that we can do to kind of get us there. We can make sulfur from bioflux and spoilage. We can make plastic from bioflux and Yamako mash. And the iron and copper would have to be with the bacteria. So that is going to be kind of interesting. I have a couple of ideas on how we're going to manage that, but we shall see. I think, like I said, in the next episode, we're going to start that process and bring a lot of this stuff down to the bus, which we've kind of not really dealt with. And yeah. So that is going to be it for me. I will see you in the next episode, and thanks for watching.